Commander Zix stood frozen on the bridge of the silent harvester. His four eyes stared at the small creature sitting in the holding cell on his screen. The creature looked back at him through the camera with bright brown eyes full of curiosity instead of fear. "You fool," Zix whispered to his subordinate Teclon. "What have you done?" Teclon shifted nervously on his 6 legs. His green skin had turned pale with worry. "Commander, I thought it was just another primitive animal. It was small and making loud noises. The scanner said it was a young primate." "A young primate," Zix repeated slowly. His voice grew louder with each word. "On the 3rd planet of the Sol system. Do you know what system that is, Teclon?" The human system?" Teclon's voice cracked. "Yes, the human system." Zix turned to face his crew. Every alien on the bridge was staring at the screen. "And do you know what that small creature is?" The 8-year-old boy in the cell had found a small piece of metal on the floor. He was now using it to draw pictures on the wall. He hummed a simple tune while he worked. "It's a human child," Zix said. His voice was barely a whisper now. "You abducted a human child." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming coming from the speakers. Danny Martinez continued drawing on the wall, completely unaware of the panic he was causing. He had drawn what looked like a house with stick figures outside it, a man, a woman, and a smaller figure that was probably himself. Chief Engineer Mortok was the first to speak. "Commander, we need to take it back immediately." "We can't just take it back," Security Chief Graktul argued. "The humans will detect us. They'll know we were there." "They already know," Zix said quietly. "Their monitoring systems are more advanced than anything we understand. They knew the moment we entered their system. They probably know exactly where we are right now." Teclon looked confused. "But Commander, it's just one small creature. Surely they won't..." "Won't what?" Zix turned on him. "Won't care? Won't respond? Do you know nothing about humans, Teclon?" The young officer shook his head. Zix activated the ship's database. Holographic images filled the air above them. "Let me educate you about what happens when someone threatens a human child." The first image showed a massive explosion. The Centauri incident. Pirates captured 12 human children for ransom. The humans didn't negotiate, they didn't threaten. They simply arrived with their fleet and turned the entire asteroid base into dust. 7,000 pirates died in 30 seconds. Another image appeared. This one showed empty space where a space station used to be. The Silent Purge. A slaver organization was trafficking children from various species, including 3 human children. No one saw the humans coming. No one heard weapons fire. The entire criminal network simply disappeared overnight. 2 million slavers across 50 star systems. Gone. Graktul scoffed. "Stories to scare children." "Are they?" Zix brought up another image. This one showed a planet with a dark scar across one continent. The Vorthan War. The Vorthans thought they could use human civilians as shields. They took 50,000 humans to their home world, including 8,000 children. Humans gave them one warning, just one. When the Vorthans refused to release the civilians, the humans did something no one thought possible. He paused, letting the image sink in. They cracked the planet's crust from orbit, not to destroy it, but to create earthquakes that would force the Vorthans to move all civilians to evacuation sites. Then they landed and took their people back. But the Vorthans learned something that day. When you threaten human children, humans stop thinking like civilized beings. They become something else entirely. On the screen, Danny had finished his drawing. He was now sitting cross-legged on the floor, looking around the cell with interest. He didn't seem scared or upset. He seemed like he was on an adventure. "Contact the Galactic Council," Zix ordered. "Tell them we need immediate diplomatic intervention." Communications Officer Vektar worked at his station for several minutes before turning back to the commander. "Sir, I have Senior Counselor Vexhai on the line." The holographic image of the elderly Nexari appeared in the center of the bridge. Vexhai took one look at the screen showing Danny and closed all 6 of his eyes. "Commander Zix," Vexhai said, slowly. Please tell me that is not what I think it is. Senior Counselor, we need help. There was a mistake during our specimen collection mission. We accidentally captured a human child. Vexhai was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with sadness. How long ago? Approximately 4 of their hours. 4 hours. Vexhai shook his head. Commander, I'm going to be honest with you. There is nothing the Council can do. Nothing anyone can do. You have perhaps 8 more of their hours before they arrive. But surely we can negotiate. With what? Vexhai interrupted. You have their child. There is nothing in the galaxy they value more. No treasure, no technology, no territory, nothing. Graktul stepped forward. We could use the child as leverage. Force them to. Every alien on the bridge turned to stare at him in horror. Vexhai's image flickered as if the signal was having trouble. Did he just suggest, Vexhai whispered, using a human child as leverage against humans? He's new, Zik said quickly. He doesn't understand. Then let me make him understand. Vexhai's voice became hard as steel. The last group that threatened to harm human children to get what they wanted no longer exists. Not just their ships or their stations, their entire species. The humans didn't just defeat them. They made sure that species could never threaten anyone's children ever again. Graktul's confidence crumbled. What do you mean they no longer exist? I mean, Vexhai said, that if you say those words again, if you even think about harming that child, you will learn why humans are the only species in the galaxy that other species have nightmares about. On the screen, Danny had gotten tired of sitting. He was now exploring his cell, running his small hands along the walls. He found a section that looked different and pressed it. A panel slid open, revealing some basic ship systems. Oh no, Mortok whispered. He's found the environmental controls for that section. They watched as Danny poked at the glowing buttons with the curiosity of any 8-year-old boy. The temperature in his cell began to rise, then fall, then rise again as he experimented. He's going to hurt himself, Mortok said. He was already moving toward the door. Where are you going? Zix demanded. To help him. He's just a child. He doesn't know those controls could be dangerous. You can't go in there. Why not? Zix gestured at the screen. Danny had managed to figure out the temperature control and had set it to a comfortable level. Now he was working on the lighting, making it brighter and dimmer like he was playing a game. Because, Zix said, in less than 8 hours his parents are going to come for him. And when they do, I want to be able to tell them that we kept him safe, that we treated him well, that we didn't let him get hurt. You think that will matter? Graktul asked. Vexhai's image was still active. Commander Zix is right. The only chance any of you have of surviving this is if that child is returned, completely unharmed and happy. If he has so much as a scratch, if he's hungry or thirsty or scared, then nothing will save you. The bridge fell silent again. They all watched the screen as Danny gave up on the control panel and sat back down. He pulled something from his pocket. It was a small juice box, somehow still intact after his capture. He inserted the tiny straw and took a sip, then looked directly at the camera. Hi, Danny said, waving at the camera. Are you the aliens? My dad said aliens might be real. You look pretty cool. Do you want to be friends? The innocent question hung in the air like a death sentence. Here was a human child, alone and far from home, asking his captors if they wanted to be friends. And somewhere in space, his parents were coming to get him. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. She had been at NORAD headquarters in Colorado for 23 years, but she had never heard this particular alarm before. It was the sound reserved for only one thing, a missing American child. She dropped her coffee mug and ran to the command center. The mug shattered on the floor behind her, but she didn't look back. Nothing mattered except getting to her station. Report! She barked as she entered the room filled with flashing red lights and urgent voices. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Norton looked up from his screen. His face was pale. Ma'am, we have a Code 7 situation. An 8-year-old American citizen has been taken from Phoenix, Arizona. Taken by who? Unknown alien vessel. Our deep space sensors tracked it leaving Earth's atmosphere approximately 4 hours ago. The ship was cloaked, but our new detection systems picked up the energy signature. Admiral Sullivan felt her blood turn to ice. Are you certain it's an abduction? Yes, ma'am. The child's name is Danny Martinez. He was playing in his backyard when witnesses saw a beam of light take him up to something they couldn't see. We have 3 different cell phone videos. The boy just vanished. Kate Sullivan had been in the military for 30 years. She had fought in wars across the galaxy. She had seen things that would give most people nightmares, but nothing had ever made her feel the cold rage that was building in her chest right. Now get me General Rick Thompson at the Pentagon now. The connection was established in seconds. General Thompson's face appeared on the main screen. He looked like he had been woken up, but his eyes were alert. Kate, please tell me this is not what I think it is. It's exactly what you think it is, Rick. Some aliens just grabbed an 8-year-old boy from Arizona. Thompson was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. How long ago? 4 hours. Do we know where they went? Our long-range scanners are tracking them. They're heading toward the Vega sector. Good. That gives us time. Thompson turned to someone off-screen. Wake up President Carter. Tell her we have a code 7. Within minutes, President Lisa Carter was on the call. She was still in her pajamas, but her voice was steel. Admiral Sullivan, I'm authorizing Operation Homecoming. You have complete authority to use whatever force necessary to bring that child home safely. Thank you, Madam President. I want that boy back, Kate. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how many ships you need. I don't care if you have to burn down half the galaxy. Bring him home. The call ended and Admiral Sullivan turned to her staff. Ladies and gentlemen, we have work to do. Alert all fleet commanders. I want every available ship ready for departure in 2 hours. Lieutenant, Colonel Norton raised his hand. Ma'am, what about diplomatic channels? Should we try to contact the aliens first? Sullivan looked at him like he had suggested negotiating with a tornado. Norton, someone just kidnapped an 8-year-old American boy. The time for diplomacy ended the moment they took him. 2 hours. Later, the first human ships began launching from Earth's orbital stations. Captain Steve Rodriguez commanded the USS Liberty, a massive dreadnought designed for deep space warfare. Behind him came 12 more ships of the line, each one bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. You know why we're here. Some aliens decided to take one of our children. We're going to remind them why that was a mistake. The fleet moved out of Earth's solar system at speeds that should have been impossible. Human technology had advanced far beyond what most alien species understood. The ships didn't just travel faster than light. They tore holes in space itself and stepped through them. Commander Amy Patterson sat in the captain's chair of the USS Justice. She was reading reports about similar incidents from the past. Every time aliens had threatened human children, the response had been swift and terrible. Captain, her communications officer called out. We're receiving messages from alien governments across the sector. They're all saying the same thing. What are they saying? They're evacuating their ships and stations from the area. They don't want to be anywhere near us when we find the kidnappers. Patterson nodded. Smart of them. The human fleet was not alone in space. Other alien vessels detected their massive energy signatures and immediately changed course. The Vorthan, trade convoy that had been heading toward the Vega sector, suddenly found urgent business in the opposite direction. A Nexari science vessel abandoned its research and jumped to the nearest safe system. On the bridge of the Keth Moran ship Silent, Harvester Commander Zix watched his sensors as the human fleet approached. There were now 15 ships moving toward them at impossible speeds. How long until they reach us, he asked. At their current velocity, approximately 4 hours, his navigator replied. 4 hours. Zix looked at the screen showing Danny Martinez. The boy had finished his juice box and was now trying to fold the empty container into different shapes. A journey that should take 3 days, and they're doing it in 4 hours. Chief Engineer Mortok was studying the sensor readings. Commander, their energy output is off the charts. Each of those ships is generating more power than our entire fleet combined. How is that possible? I don't know. Human technology has always been beyond our understanding, but this is something else entirely. On the screen, Danny had successfully folded his juice box into the shape of a paper airplane. He threw it across the cell and clapped when it flew in a perfect straight line before hitting the wall. "He's enjoying himself," Teclon observed. "That's what makes this so much worse," Zix replied. "He's not afraid, he's not crying. He thinks this is an adventure." Security Chief Graktul was pacing back and forth. "We should use him as a bargaining chip. Tell the humans we'll trade him for safe passage." The entire bridge crew turned to stare at him. Mortok looked horrified. "Are you insane?" Mortok demanded. "Do you want to die?" "I want to live," Graktul shot back. "And the only way we're going to live through this is if we have something they want." "We already have something they want," Zix said quietly. "We have their child. And do you know what that means?" "It means we have leverage." "No." Zix turned to face him. "It means we have signed our own death warrants. Every second that child stays on this ship, we are all getting closer to dying." Meanwhile, on Earth, the news had broken. Every television station, every internet site, every social media platform was showing the same story. An 8-year-old boy named Danny Martinez had been kidnapped by aliens. The boy's parents, Maria and Carlos Martinez, sat in their living room surrounded by government officials and reporters. Maria was crying, but Carlos looked like he was ready to steal a spaceship and go after his son himself. "We just want our boy back," Maria said to the cameras. "He's just a little boy. He likes drawing and playing with his toy cars. He's not afraid of anything because he doesn't know there are things to be afraid of." Carlos put his arm around his wife. "Danny is the bravest kid I know. But he's also trusting. He talks to everyone. He probably thinks those aliens are his new friends." The reporter leaned forward. "What would you like to say to the people who took your son?" Carlos looked directly into the camera. His voice was steady, but his eyes were burning with fury. "Bring him back. Bring him back now before my people come for him. Because when they find you, and they will find you, you'd better hope my son is safe and happy. Because if he's not, if he's hurt or scared or hungry, then God help you all." Back in space, the human fleet was spreading out in a search pattern. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the USS Vengeance, watching the tactical display. "Admiral," her communications officer announced, "we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They want to mediate. Tell them there's nothing to mediate. We want our child back. Everything else is negotiable after we have him." "Yes, ma'am." Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the comm from the USS Liberty. "Admiral, we've detected the alien ship. It's a Kethmoran vessel about 6 light years ahead of us." "How long until we reach them?" 2 hours at maximum burn." Sullivan nodded. "All ships prepare for combat operations. Remember, our primary objective is the safe recovery of Danny Martinez. Everything else is secondary." The human fleet adjusted course and increased speed. Behind them, the vacuum of space itself seemed to burn with their fury. They were coming for one small boy, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them. On the silent harvester, alarms began blaring as the human ships appeared on their long-range sensors. "Commander," the navigator called out. "They're coming, directly for us. No deviation, no attempt at stealth. They know exactly where we are." Zix looked at the tactical display showing 15 human warships approaching at impossible speeds. Then he looked at the screen showing Danny Martinez, who was now sitting on the floor drawing pictures on the wall with a piece of metal. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Zix ordered. "Sir, do it." The channel opened, and Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. Her eyes were like ice, and when she spoke, her voice carried the promise of death. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Fleet. You have something that belongs to us." Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at the alien commander on her screen. Commander Zix looked like he was about to be sick. His 4 eyes were wide with terror, and his green skin had turned almost white. "Admiral Sullivan," Zix began, his voice shaking, "there has been a terrible mistake. One of my crew members accidentally captured a human child during a routine specimen collection mission." "Accidentally?" Sullivan's voice was flat and cold. You accidentally kidnapped an 8-year-old boy. Yes, Admiral. We had no intention of harming the child or causing any trouble with your species. We are prepared to return him immediately. Behind Sullivan, Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical display. The alien ship was small and lightly armed. It wouldn't last 10 seconds against even one of their ships, let alone 15. You're prepared to return him, Sullivan repeated. How generous of you. On the Silent Harvester's bridge, Mortok was monitoring Danny through the security cameras. The boy had found some colored wires in the wall panel and was braiding them together like friendship bracelets. Admiral, Zix continued, we understand your anger, but the child is completely unharmed. He is safe and well cared for. Show me. The image on Sullivan's screen changed to show Danny's cell. The 8-year-old boy was sitting cross-legged on the floor, working on his wire bracelet. He was humming the same tune he had been humming since his capture. Sullivan studied the image carefully. The boy looked healthy and unafraid. He was even smiling as he worked on his project. He looks happy, she said. Yes, Admiral. As I said, he is well cared for. Good. Sullivan's expression didn't change. Because if he wasn't, I would turn your ship into space dust right now. Instead, I'm going to give you exactly 12 hours to return him safely to his parents. Zix felt a small surge of hope. 12 hours? That's very reasonable, Admiral. We can have him back to Earth in... I'm not finished. Sullivan's voice cut through his relief like a knife. 12 hours to return him safely. If he is injured in any way, if he is hungry or thirsty or scared, if he has so much as a bruise or a scratch, then I will hunt down every member of your crew and make sure they understand what happens when someone hurts a human child. The connection ended abruptly. The screen went black, leaving the alien crew staring at their own reflections. 12 hours, Teclon said hopefully. That's not so bad. Graktul laughed bitterly. You fool. She's not giving us 12 hours to return the child. She's giving us 12 hours to live. What do you mean? Mortok answered. She means that in 12 hours, whether we return the child or not, we're all going to die. The only question is whether it will be quick or slow. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of Danny Martinez's kidnapping was spreading like wildfire. In the Vorthan embassy on the neutral station Harmony Point, Ambassador Cleth was frantically trying to contact his homeworld. What do you mean? You can't reach them? He demanded of his communications officer. Sir, every Vorthan ship in the sector has gone dark. They're not responding to any calls. Ambassador Cleth understood. His people remembered what humans did when their children were threatened. During the Vorthan War, the humans had given them one warning before cracking their planet's crust. The Vorthans had never forgotten that lesson. On the Nexari home station, Senior Counselor Vexhai was holding an emergency meeting with representatives from dozens of species. How many of our ships are in the Vega sector? Asked the Altarian delegate. None, Vexhai replied. I ordered a complete evacuation the moment I heard about the human child. Was that necessary? The Centaurian representative asked. Surely. The humans won't attack neutral parties. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking about the same thing, the silent purge. When slavers had trafficked human children, the humans hadn't just gone after the slavers. They had eliminated everyone who had helped them, traded with them, or even known about them and done nothing to stop it. The humans don't see neutral parties when their children are involved, Vexhai explained. They see people who either help them get their children back or people who get in their way. There is no middle ground. Back on the Silent Harvester, Danny had finished his wire bracelet. He held it up to the camera and smiled. Look what I made, he said cheerfully. It's a friendship bracelet. My mom taught me how to make them. Do you want one? The crew watched in fascination as the human child offered to make gifts for his captors. Mortok found himself genuinely touched by the gesture. He wants to make us presents, Mortok said quietly. That makes it worse, Zix replied. He trusts us. He thinks we're his friends. And in 12 hours his parents are going to come here and find out that we kidnapped their trusting, innocent child. Graktul was studying the tactical displays. Commander, we could still use him as leverage. The humans obviously care about him. We could negotiate for safe passage. Zix turned to look at his security chief. Graktul, I want you to access the ship's database. Look up something called the Kepler Station Incident. Graktul worked at his console for a few minutes. His face went pale as he read. What was the Kepler Station Incident? Teklan asked. Graktul's voice was barely a whisper. Pirates took a human transport ship. They had 200 adult humans and 50 children. The pirates demanded ransom and threatened to start killing hostages if they didn't get it. What happened? The humans paid the ransom, all of it. They gave the pirates everything they asked for. That doesn't sound so bad. They're not finished, Zix said grimly. Tell them the rest, Graktul. Graktul continued reading. After the pirates released the hostages, the humans waited exactly 24 hours. Then they tracked down every pirate who had been involved. Not just the ones on the station. Every single one. It took them 3 years, but they found them all. And they made them disappear. Not just killed them. Made them disappear. No bodies, no evidence, no trace. The only thing they left behind was a message. This is what happens to people who threaten our children. The bridge was quiet except for the sound of Danny humming in his cell. Commander, Communications Officer Vektar announced, We're receiving messages from across the galaxy. What kind of messages? Terror, mostly. Every species that has ever had dealings with humans is sending warnings about what they do when their children are threatened. Zix activated the communications array. Dozens of messages began playing at once. A draconian captain. Whatever you do, don't hurt the child. The humans turned the Draco system into a graveyard when pirates took their school transport. A Rigelian traitor. I've seen what humans do. They don't just kill you. They make sure your entire species learns the lesson. An Andromedan scientist. The humans have a saying, hell hath no fury like a parent whose child has been taken. They mean it literally. Message after message poured in, each one more terrifying than the last. Stories of entire criminal organizations wiped out overnight. Planets cracked open. Space stations that simply vanished without a trace. Turn it off, Zix ordered. In the silence that followed, they could hear Danny talking to himself in his cell. I wonder if aliens have mommies and daddies like I do. He was saying. I bet they do. I bet they love their kids just like my mom and dad love me. I can't wait to tell them about this adventure. Mortok stood up suddenly. I can't listen to this anymore. Where are you going? Zix demanded. To check on the child to make sure he has everything he needs, and you can't go in there. Why not? Because in a few hours his parents are going to ask us exactly how we treated their son. And I want to be able to tell them that we did everything we could to keep him safe and happy. Mortok sat back down, but his eyes never left the screen, showing Danny. On Earth, the news coverage had reached a fever pitch. Every major network was running continuous updates about Danny Martinez. His school had set up a prayer vigil. His neighbors had organized search parties even though everyone knew the boy was somewhere in deep space. Maria Martinez sat in her living room clutching one of Danny's toy cars. He loves these little cars, she told the reporter. He makes up stories about them. He pretends they can fly to other planets and meet aliens. The irony was not lost on anyone. Carlos Martinez stood at the window looking up at the sky. My son is out there somewhere, he said. Some aliens took him from his own backyard while he was playing. But I'm not worried about Danny. You know. Why? Why? The reporter asked. Carlos turned to face the camera. His eyes were filled with a father's love and a father's fury. Because Danny is an American boy, and America doesn't leave its children behind. Ever. In space, the human fleet was closing in on the silent harvester. Admiral Sullivan stood on her bridge watching the countdown timer. 11 hours and 37 minutes until the deadline. 11 hours and 37 minutes for Danny Martinez to remain safe and happy. 11 hours and 37 minutes. For the aliens to understand exactly what they had done. The hunt was almost over. The tension on the silent harvester's bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Commander Zix watched the countdown timer showing 6 hours remaining until Admiral Sullivan's deadline. His crew was divided, and he could feel the ship tearing, itself apart from the inside. Half of his officers wanted to immediately surrender and return Danny Martinez to Earth. The other half, led by Security Chief Graktul, believed they should use the child as a bargaining chip to negotiate safe passage. "Commander," Graktul said for the 10th time in the past hour, "we need to think strategically here. The humans want their child back. We have what they want. That gives us power." Chief Engineer Mortok looked at him with disgust. "Power? You think kidnapping an 8-year-old boy gives us power over the species that turned the Centauri pirates into space dust? The humans are emotional about their children," Graktul argued. "That emotion makes them weak. We can use it." Teklan raised his hand nervously. Security Chief, didn't the database say that human emotion about their children makes them more dangerous, not weaker?" Graktul waved him off. "Propaganda. No species becomes more effective when they're emotional. Emotion clouds judgment." On the security monitor, Danny had grown tired of making bracelets. He was now exploring every corner of his cell, touching the walls and examining the strange alien technology. He found a ventilation grate and tried to peer through it. "What's he doing?" Communications Officer Vektar asked. "Being curious," Mortok replied. "He's a child. Children explore." Danny pressed his face against the grate and called out, "Hello? Is anyone there? I'm Danny. What are your names?" The crew exchanged glances. The boy was trying to talk to them through the ventilation system. "He wants to know our names," Teklan said quietly. "Don't answer him," Graktul ordered. "We don't. Want him to identify us later." "Later?" Mortok stood up angrily. "What later? In 6 hours his parents are going to be here. Do you really think there's going to be a later for any of us?" The argument was interrupted by urgent beeping from the sensor station. Navigator Yelmar looked up from his console with panic in his eyes. "Commander, we have a problem. I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors." "More human ships?" "No, sir. These are different, much smaller, but the energy readings are impossible." Zix activated the main display. The tactical screen showed their ship surrounded by small, fast-moving objects that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. "What are those?" "I don't know, Commander. They're not showing up on any of our standard sensors. I can only detect them when they interact with normal space-time." Suddenly, Danny's voice echoed through the ship's communication system, but this time he wasn't alone. "Danny, this is Captain Julie Morrison of the United Earth Navy. Can you hear me, son?" The entire crew froze. Somehow, the humans had infiltrated their communication system without triggering any alarms. Danny's excited voice responded immediately. "Hi, Captain Julie. Are you here to take me home? This has been really fun. But I miss my mom and dad. We're going to take you home very soon." "Danny, are you okay? Are you hurt at all?" "No, I'm fine. The aliens haven't hurt me. They gave me this room to stay in, and I found some wires to make friendship bracelets. Do you want to see them?" Captain Morrison's voice was warm and gentle when she spoke to Danny, but Commander Zix could hear the steel underneath. "I'd love to see your bracelets, Danny. But first I need you to do something for me. Can you move away from the walls and sit in the middle of your room?" "Okay. Why?" "Just to be safe, sweetheart." Danny did as he was told, sitting cross-legged in the center of his cell with his collection of wire bracelets in his lap. "Good boy, Danny. Now I need you to close your eyes and count to 10. Is this a game?" "Something like that." Danny closed his eyes and began counting. 1, 2, 3. Commander Zix was frantically trying to understand how the humans had infiltrated their systems when Security Chief Graktul made the worst decision of his life. "No," Graktul said loudly into the ship's communication system. "Human Captain, you will withdraw your ships immediately, or we will harm the child." Danny stopped counting and opened his eyes. For the first time since his capture, he looked scared. 4. He continued quietly, his voice now trembling. The ship's communication system crackled with static. When Captain Morrison spoke again, her voice was no longer warm and gentle. It was the voice of death itself. "Did you just threaten to harm a human child?" Graktul suddenly realized what he had done. Danny, keep counting, sweetheart. Don't listen to the bad alien. 5, 6. Danny's voice was small and frightened now. Every alien on the bridge turned to stare at Graktul in absolute horror. Even he seemed to understand the magnitude of his mistake. 7, 8. Captain Morrison's voice filled the ship again, but now she was speaking to the crew. You have exactly 2 seconds to surrender unconditionally, or I will show you what we do to people who threaten our children. 9. Graktul, in his panic, reached for his weapon. We still have the child. We can still negotiate. 10. The lights went out. In the darkness, the crew heard sounds that would haunt their nightmares for the rest of their lives. Metal screaming as it was torn apart, the hiss of atmosphere being vented into space, and underneath it all, the sound of human footsteps echoing through their ship. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie red shadows across the bridge. Commander Zix looked at his tactical display and saw something impossible. Human soldiers were inside his ship, not just in the corridors but everywhere. They had somehow materialized directly through the hull without breaching it. How did they get inside? Tekalon whispered. The answer came from directly behind them. We've been inside since you took the boy. The crew spun around to see a human woman in military gear standing on their bridge. She was tall and lean, with short blonde hair and eyes like ice chips. Her uniform bore the insignia of a Navy captain. Captain Julie Morrison. She introduced herself calmly. United States Navy SEALs. We've been watching you for the past 8 hours. Impossible, Zix breathed. Our sensors would have detected you. Your sensors can only detect things that exist in normal space-time. We don't. She smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You see, when you take one of our children, we stop playing by the rules of physics. Graktul raised his weapon toward the captain. Before he could even begin to aim, something struck him from behind. He collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Another human soldier materialized from thin air, securing Graktul's weapon. That's the one who threatened the boy, Captain Morrison said to her soldier. Make sure he receives special attention. With pleasure, Captain. Morrison turned back to Commander Zix. Now, Commander, let's discuss the terms of your surrender. Surrender? Oh yes, you're surrendering. The only question is whether you do it before or after we demonstrate what happened to the last group that threatened one of our children. On the security monitor, they could see Danny Martinez sitting in his cell, no longer scared, but now curious about the strange sounds echoing through the ship. A human soldier had appeared in his cell, but instead of frightening him, the soldier was sitting cross-legged on the floor, examining Danny's friendship bracelets. These are really good, the soldier was saying. You're quite the artist. Thanks. I made one for everyone, even the aliens. They seem sad, and I thought friendship bracelets might make them feel better. The soldier smiled. You made friendship bracelets for the aliens who kidnapped you? Well, yeah. I don't think they meant to be mean. I think they just don't know how to make friends properly. Captain Morrison's voice softened as she listened to the conversation. That boy has more compassion in his 8-year-old heart than most adults have in their entire bodies. She turned back to Commander Zix, and her voice became hard again, which makes what you did to him even more unforgivable. Captain, please understand, it was an accident. We never meant to. Commander Zix, Morrison interrupted. You have 2 choices. You can surrender your ship and crew peacefully, and we'll consider letting most of you live. Or I can let my team demonstrate why humans are the only species in the galaxy that gives other species nightmares. Zix looked around his bridge. Half. His crew was unconscious. The other half was surrounded by human soldiers who had appeared from nowhere. His ship's systems were completely compromised. What guarantees do we have? None. Morrison's smile was arctic. You kidnapped an 8-year-old boy from his own backyard. You scared him. You made him count to 10 while one of your crew threatened to hurt him. The only reason you're still breathing is because that little boy is sitting in there making friendship bracelets for the people who took him from his parents. She leaned closer to Zix. But if you test my patience any further, if you give me even the slightest reason to believe that child was harmed or frightened because of your negligence, I will personally ensure that your species learns why humans have a reputation for protecting their young. Commander Zix looked at the monitor showing Danny Martinez, innocent and trusting even after everything that had happened to him. Then he looked at Captain Morrison, whose eyes promised a death so terrible that it would become a cautionary tale told across the galaxy. "We surrender," he whispered. Captain Julie Morrison walked through the corridors of the Silent Harvester with Commander Zix beside her. The alien commander moved like a prisoner walking to his execution, while Morrison moved with the confidence of someone who had complete control of the situation. "Your ship will be escorted back to the edge of human space," Morrison explained as they walked. "From there, you'll be given a choice." "What kind of choice?" "Exile to the Galactic Rim, or service in our rehabilitation programs for trafficking victims." Zix looked confused. "Rehabilitation programs? We've learned that simply killing people who harm our children doesn't always solve the problem. Sometimes it's better to make them understand what they've done wrong and help them become better." They reached the door to Danny's cell. Through the small window, they could see the 8-year-old boy sitting on the floor with Sergeant Tony Rodriguez, a massive human soldier who was carefully examining each of Danny's friendship bracelets. "This one is really pretty," Rodriguez was saying, holding up a bracelet made from blue and silver wires. "Who did you make this one for?" "That's for the alien with 4 eyes," Danny replied cheerfully. "He looked really worried, so I thought he might need a friendship bracelet to make him feel better." Rodriguez smiled. "You made a friendship bracelet for the alien commander who kidnapped you?" Danny nodded seriously. "My mom says that when people are mean, it's usually because they're sad or scared about something. So if you're nice to them, maybe they'll feel better and stop being mean." Morrison opened the door and stepped into the cell. Danny looked up and his face lit up with excitement. "Captain Julie, look at all the bracelets I made. I made one for everyone on the ship. Even the mean alien who said scary things." "I see that, Danny. You've been very busy. Are we going home now? I want to show my mom and dad what I made." "Yes, sweetheart. We're taking you home right now." Danny jumped to his feet and ran to Morrison, wrapping his small arms around her, legs in a hug. "Thank you for coming to get me. This was a really fun adventure, but I miss my family." Morrison looked down at the trusting child clinging to her and felt something break inside her chest. This innocent little boy had been taken from his own backyard, held captive by aliens for hours, and his response was to make them friendship bracelets. "Danny," she said gently, "would you like to give your bracelets to the aliens before we leave?" "Can. I made them special for each person." "Of course you can." Danny gathered up his collection of wire bracelets and walked over to Commander Zix. The alien commander looked down at the small human child with something like wonder in his 4 eyes. "I made this one for you," Danny said, holding up the blue and silver bracelet. "Blue because your skin is pretty and silver because it's shiny like your ship." Zix stared at the simple gift. His hands shook as he reached down to take it from the child. "Thank you," he whispered. Danny beamed with pride. "You're welcome. Being friends is much better than being scared, don't you think?" Over the next hour, Danny insisted on visiting every crew member to personally deliver their friendship bracelets. Each alien received their gift with the same stunned amazement. Even the unconscious security chief Graktul received a bracelet, which Danny left on his chest. He was scared, Danny explained to Captain Morrison. Scared people sometimes say mean things they don't really mean. Chief Engineer Mortok was the last to receive his bracelet. When Danny handed him the carefully crafted gift made from red and yellow wires, the alien engineer began to cry. "I'm sorry," Mortok said, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry we took you from your family." Danny patted Mortok's arm gently. "It's okay. You didn't hurt me, and I got to see a real spaceship. That's pretty cool." "You forgive us?" My dad says forgiveness is important. He says holding on to anger just makes you sad. Mortok looked up at Captain Morrison. "I want to serve in your rehabilitation programs. I want to understand how humans can be so good." Morrison nodded. "We'll arrange that." An hour later, Danny Martinez was aboard the human transport ship Mercy, heading home to Earth. He sat in the co-pilot's chair next to Captain Morrison, still wearing his excitement like a badge of honor. "Captain Julie, do you think the aliens learned how to be better friends?" "I think you taught them something very important, Danny." "Good. Everyone should have friends." The journey back to Earth took only 2 hours thanks to human technology that bent space and time. When they arrived in Earth's solar system, Danny pressed his face against the window to see his home planet. "There it is," he shouted with joy. "There's Earth, I can see it." The transport ship landed at a military base outside Phoenix, Arizona. As the doors opened, Danny saw his parents running across the tarmac toward him. "Mom, Dad," Danny sprinted into their arms. Maria Martinez was crying as she hugged her son. "Danny, baby, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine, Mom. Look what I made." Danny pulled out a bracelet he had saved for his mother. "I made this one for you. It's pink and purple because those are your favorite colors." Carlos Martinez lifted his son into the air and spun him around. "We were so worried about you, buddy." "I wasn't scared, Dad." "Well, maybe a little bit when the mean alien said scary things, but Captain Julie came and made everything okay." The family reunion was watched by millions of people around the world. News cameras captured every moment as Danny Martinez, the 8-year-old boy who had been kidnapped by aliens, came home safely. Later that evening, Danny sat at his kitchen table with his parents, showing them all the friendship bracelets he had made during his adventure. "You made these for the aliens who took you?" Maria asked, amazed. "Uh-huh. They seemed sad and lonely. I thought friendship bracelets might help." Carlos shook his head in wonder. "Danny, most people would be angry at aliens who kidnapped them." "Why would I be angry, Dad? They brought me home safe and I got to see space, plus now they know how to be better friends." Meanwhile, in space, the Silent Harvester was being escorted to the edge of human territory by the USS Liberty. Commander Zix sat in his quarters, looking at the blue and silver friendship bracelet on his wrist. Chief Engineer Mortok entered the room. He was also wearing his bracelet. "Commander, I've been thinking about what the human child said." "What about it?" "He said that being friends is better than being scared." "He's right, isn't he?" Zix nodded slowly. "Yes, he is. I've decided to stay with the human rehabilitation program. I want to learn how to be the kind of person who deserves a gift like this." Mortok held up his red and yellow bracelet. "I think I will too," Zix said quietly. 3 months later, the incident became known throughout the galaxy as the Martinez event. New laws were passed by the Galactic Council specifically protecting human children. A universal warning was added to all first contact procedures that simply read, "Do not threaten human offspring under any circumstances." The story of Danny Martinez, the 8-year-old boy who responded to kidnapping by making friendship bracelets for his captors, became legend. It was told on 1,000 worlds as an example of the strange, impossible goodness that humans were capable of. But perhaps the most important change happened in the hearts of the aliens who had taken him. Commander Zix and Chief Engineer Mortok both graduated from the Human Rehabilitation Program and became ambassadors for peaceful contact between species. They spent the rest of their lives teaching other aliens about the lesson they had learned from a small human child. That kindness was always stronger than fear, that forgiveness was more powerful than revenge, and that sometimes the most important thing you could do was offer friendship to someone who didn't deserve it. Both aliens wore their friendship bracelets for the rest of their lives, never taking them off, always remembering the day an 8-year-old boy taught them what it really meant to be civilized. And on Earth, Danny Martinez grew up to become a diplomat specializing in alien relations. He never forgot his adventure in space, and he never stopped believing that everyone, no matter how different or scary they seemed, just needed a friend. His first act as a diplomatic ambassador was to establish the Martinez Friendship Protocol, a program that taught human and alien children to make friendship bracelets together. Because sometimes, the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is the kindness of a child who believes that everyone deserves a second chance. The galaxy learned that humans were fierce protectors of their young, but more importantly, they learned that humans raised their children to be forgiving, compassionate, and hopeful. And that perhaps was the most terrifying thing of all.